Okay, Geeta Jnana. Om. O Bhagavad Gita, by which Arjuna was illumined by Lord Krishna himself, and which was composed of 18 chapters within the Mahabharata by the ancient sage Vyasa. O Divine Mother, destroyer of rebirth, who showers the nectar of oneness upon us. O Bhagavad Gita, my affectionate mother, on thee I meditate. All the Upanishads are the cows. The milker is the cowherd boy Krishna. Arjuna is the calf. People of purified intellect are the drinkers. And the milk is the supreme nectar of the Gita. My salutations to the Lord, who is the source of supreme bliss, whose grace makes the mute eloquent and the crippled cross mountains. Hare Om Tat Sat. Okay. So Lord Krishna continues to teach and amaze us in chapter 10.
What was the title of this chapter again, Swamiji?
Vibhuti.
Oh, that's right.
Vibhuti Yoga, the yoga of the divine manifestations. Mm. So he's talking about the genesis of this world show here. So this is Genesis, isn't it? Oh. The seven great sages, the ancient four, and also the Manu meaning lawgiver, like this. The seven great sages, the ancient four, and also the Manu, possessed of powers like me, were born of my mind. From them are these creatures born in this world. He who in truth knows these manifold manifestations of my being and yoga power of mine becomes established in the unshakable yoga. There is no doubt about it. And here's the commentary that Swami Venkatesh provides. He says, Hinduism, especially Hindu mythology, has woven colorful legends into a charming pattern of creation. The Bhagavatam adds many other scriptures contain interesting stories which invariably conclude with the note, all of this is the Lord's play. So the term that we hear often is the Lord's Leela. Leela. And I think of Erica's second when I hear the word Leela. And that's what she was named after, the play. Play. Meaning play in multiple senses. And it will be used in multiple senses. Meaning child's play. Not childish, but play. Play. Just play. Play for the joy of it. Huh? We remember that? So Theo still remembers it. And then also the play, as in the play must go on, the show must go on. So the play, we get the concept, we're watching the fabric of the cosmos, and the concept was given of the stage, space being the stage, as it were, and the play occurring within it or on it. So invariably conclude with the note, all of this is the Lord's play. The four ancient sages who were first born of the Creator's mind were not interested in progeny. The second lot of seven were prompted by the indweller to do this job, progeny, whilst the four illumined the path of renunciation and return. These 11 sages and the Manu were born of my mind. And he's quoting when he says, we're born of my mind. In other words, they're not to be mistaken for gross, physical, material beings. They are the thought forms or the dreams of the Lord. They are the archetypes in the macrocosm of certain physio-mental faculties in the microcosm. The four ancient sages represent the four aspects of the mind. So again, just coming back to the science, just because modern science is actually very, very helpful in terms of grasping what's being shared. If we're to grok it, that's Shira's word that she'll often use, grok it. Understand it, grasp it, like that. So if we're to grasp what's being shared, modern science is pretty darn helpful in a way. So science has discovered basic, fundamental laws that are operating within the universe. So we see cause and effect, for example, as a law. Whatever you do gets done to you. So it takes a while to see that one. But we do come to understand that it's a firm law. Law of gravity. And then we had the exploration of what is the law of gravity, that space and time are actually bending. That was some of the explorations. Very interesting. But the law of gravity, which Newton had discovered, that things fall towards the mass. Yes? So it's a law. So who wrote the law, or were they just accidental? Oh. So these laws are written within consciousness. Whose consciousness? God's consciousness. That's the consciousness that there is. One without a second. Causeless cause. On its own, it exists. On its own, it exists. It doesn't need something else in order to exist. And so how did this start? Everyone who will study science, absolutely. The religious, absolutely. The philosophers, absolutely. How did this come to be? Most of us walk around, we don't care how it came to be. It's very interesting. Very, very interesting. Because if you don't care how it came to be, and if you don't care who you are and how you came to be and what are you made of, then right? Then we just go from death to death, and that's very much from the scriptures. We party.
I go to an animal birth because it's kind of like a stupidity almost, it seems like.
The four ancient sages represent the four aspects of the mind: the conscious, the subconscious, the intellect, and the egoity. The seven sages, however, represent the seven dhatu, or components of the physical body. The Manu are thoughts themselves in the waking state and the dreams of the dream state. But all these are only in the cosmic mind. That is, they are God's dreams. This is God's dream. And from them are these creatures born in this world. That is, the concrete, material, sensible world that seems to exist is not more than God's dream object. Why then do we, and by the way, science is right on the door of this, but you can't go in when you continue to look at something apart from you, because to find the secret of it, you're going to have to look within you. You're going to have to peel the dreamscape back to see it. So they're knocking on the door. When they're talking about hologram theory, you understand that they're talking about the non-reality of this universe. That this universe does not exist as names and forms, it only appears to. Yes, dear? Yes. So then what is its existence? And this is being discussed. Why then do we not experience it as such? In other words, why do we not experience it as a dream? Why do you not experience your dreams as dreams? Can anyone answer that question?
I take myself as the character.
You see it? Only from waking state can you say I was dreaming. Is it so? Why is that?
But how come sometimes you can have a dream and you know you're in the dream and you wake yourself out of the dream? Is that just part of the dream? That's deep stuff.
So is imagining that one is dreaming now part of the dream?
Oh, yes. Yes.
But who's having that thought?
Who's having the thought? The indweller. See here.
Om.
Yes.
So whilst the dream is in progress, no one can convince the dreamer that he's dreaming. All seems so real. It is also only on awakening that the dream is realized to have been a dream. The knower of this truth practices the unshakable yoga, for he is no more deluded, though he sees both sides, the dream and the dreamer dreaming his dream.
Yes.
So Lord continues, I am the source of all. From me everything evolves. Understanding thus, the wise endowed with meditation or the proper attitude worship me. And again, of course it's so. Even though this mind is wired to go out, it's not impossible to go in, to go back in time, for example. It's not that possible. We discuss all the time the relationship between the seed and the tree. And we were saying yesterday again, during Upanishad, that the seed is simply appearing to be the tree. Right? The seed becomes manifest, as it were.
Yes.
As it were. But it doesn't change, does it? Does it become something else? No. Oh. So this is also understood in science. No creation, no destruction. So something is appearing as all of this, and that's where we get the hologram theory. Something is appearing as all of this, but all of this is not independently real.
Right.
Oh. So, I am the source of all. There has to be a source. Huh? There has to be a seed for all of this to arise. Yeah? Okay. So this is the absolute saying, I am that. I am the source of this all. Ah. From me, everything evolves. Darwin studied. Have we heard of Darwin? We heard of Darwin?
Yes.
Origin of the species.
Sorry?
Origin of the species.
Origin of the species. So Darwin studied this. Darwin just didn't go that far. But he saw evolution, didn't he?
Yes.
And he came to see that evolution is a thing here. That there is evolution. So what are we evolving from? Okay, fine, man evolved from ape. Okay, got it. No problem. What did the ape evolve from? And what did that which became an ape evolve from? So Darwin got it back to the oceans.
Yes.
Right? He got it back to the oceans, and he got it back to the eels and such in the oceans. And then he could take it back to the bacteria.
Yes.
Where did the bacteria evolve from?
The seeds.
Right?
Yes.
They say it's like a complex configuration of chemicals and heat and just whoo, pop, there comes the first.
Yeah.
Possibly lightning started.
Yeah.
Yes.
No. Okay. I am the source of all. From me, everything evolves. Understanding thus the wise endowed with meditation or the proper attitude, devotion, worship me. With their mind and their life wholly absorbed in me, enlightening each other and ever speaking of me, they are satisfied and delighted. This is what happens in India.
I'm sorry.
When the Swamis gather, it's exactly this.
Oh, that's
With their mind and their life wholly absorbed in me, enlightening each other and ever speaking of me, they are satisfied and delighted. This is also what we're doing here.
Oh.
Yeah? It's also what we're doing. Are we saying something different every day?
Not really, but we are.
Yeah. The struggle is that we have to live it hard for it to become real for us. Yeah. But there's no other reality, you see. So Lord Krishna is saying, with their mind and their life wholly absorbed in me, what happens when you know and when you live it? What happens? And Swamiji here describes the inner state so beautifully. He describes that inner state. So is it like I walk around thinking about God all the time? Oh, you're God. Oh, you're God. Oh, you're God. Oh, you're God. That's sadhana. But then what? That's sadhana. You should do that as sadhana, for God's sake. Because you have to get it. You have to break this head.
So is it like this?
You have to break it. Crack it open. Let it spill out.
Yeah.
Sorry, Hari. Yes.
I was thinking about this saying that they say, "Fake it until you make it," or something like that.
Yeah, but that's not faking it, you see. If you've tried everything else,
But it's fake when you pretend to see something that you're not really seeing.
but you are seeing it. You just imagine that you're not.
Oh, not believing it then.
You're believing that you're not seeing it. Hari. And you know that. So why do you persist in holding the belief instead of letting it go and blow away with the wind?
Believe that you're not seeing it.
Yes. If you're seeing manifold, you're seeing the seed. You know it, but you hold on to the feelings instead. Why? And then you walk around saying, I'm not seeing it. It's not true. At some point you say, I am seeing you, but I really need help because it doesn't seem like it.
Right.
But I am seeing you. I know I'm seeing you. I've worked it out. I get it. Or you could walk around like the scientist. I am just seeing numbers, but it seems like something else.
a magic show.
Yeah. So, and then what's it like after you finally break your head? You know. That's it. Whew. But then, does that mean I still walk around saying to myself, and you have to, if you want to see, you have to practice seeing.
You just do.
So is it kind of like constant vipassana? You're always sort of investigating.
That's what vipassana is, and vipassana is supposed to be constant.
Yeah. Yeah, there's just so many practices though. That's the only thing.
Pick one.
As it comes up. Just in the moment, pick one. Because there's like you need to keep the mantra, japa, and then it's like, okay, we gotta pray, do our prostrations and this and that.
There's only one practice in a moment.
Sitting there.
It's true.
There's nothing to get confused about.
That's good.
I have this moment right now. I'm practicing satsang.
Yes.
In some other moment, I'll practice something different. But what's the purpose of the practice?
To remember.
Right. Let's see what's here.
To see.
Yeah.
To see. Because we've come to see that we don't see. We're living in an illusory place. This in-between place. Where we know we're not seeing properly. Yeah. Oh. And so we know that we have to practice seeing properly, which is really the 4 yogas again, isn't it? I have to serve the one. I have to devote to the one. I have to think of the one. Because as long as I walk around thinking, this is a plant, it's this kind of plant, it's that kind of plant, this is a air cleaner, this is a pot. You see, I'm not even seeing this is clay, let alone what it really is. And we persist in telling ourselves, I'm not seeing it. That's not true, though. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Of course you're seeing it. But you're imagining it to be a pot instead of clay. So sadhana is you keep reminding yourself. And that's what these yogas are about, giving us the opportunity to become absorbed in higher states of consciousness. And then, so then Lord Krishna teases us. So what's it like when your head is broken?
Oh, that was this verse, yeah. That you just read?
With their mind and their life wholly absorbed in me, enlightening each other and ever speaking of me, they're satisfied and delighted. So here's Swamiji. He says, God is the source of all. The whole universe has issued from him as dream objects issue from your consciousness during dream. Yet it remains within him, pervaded by him, essentially one with him. Nay, is he himself. So this is what we're not seeing. God is the source of all. The whole universe is issued forth from him as dream objects issue from your own consciousness during dream, yet it remains within him, pervaded by him, essentially one with him. Nay, is he himself. This is something else with this mind. It's like a baby mind. Because we have this idea, we want to persist in this idea, if we have some belief in something higher that created this, it's as if it created it and then stood back. But you see, everyone who studies the subject comes to see there can only be one reality. We were talking about in Swami Vivekananda's essay or his speech last night. He talked about this idea that there are two gods, one good God, one bad God. The good God creates all the good stuff, and the bad God creates all the bad stuff. So somehow or other, they're cooperating between them, and therefore there are two realities, one good reality and one bad reality. And the two realities exist as some dance. But anyone who actually
Degrees in reality.
sees that there has to be, well, they both came from something then. And it has to be the same thing. Even in the Christian tradition, for gosh sakes, who's Lucifer? Where did Lucifer come from? Well, he has to have come from the same source as the good gods did. So, in the tradition, he's a child of God, right, Hari?
Yeah.
Yeah. Fallen.
Lucifer
So now he's the bad guy. Sorry?
It means the light or something like that.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Lucifer? Is that
Yeah.
what it means?
Sorry?
The light, yes. Lucifer means the light.
Yeah. Oh. There you go. Even the shadow is the light. So even the shadow is the light. Whatever you do, as long as you study, you see, well, this came from one. And so where did the one go? If you came from peace, where did the peace go? If you're peace at the center, where did the peace go? Right? It didn't go anywhere. Where did the silence go before the universe banged out? Didn't go anywhere. Where did the one go? Well, it's right here. Oh. Don't just agree because you're agreeing or you're being agreeable. If you disagree, then disagree and we can discuss it. But if you see it, then recognize that only in integrating that seeing is it possible to be satisfied, which is, after all, the purpose of your life, because you do everything in order to be satisfied. Right? Yeah. You sleep, whatever, however many hours, just in order to be satisfied. And you crave sleep because it's the most satisfying part of the day.
Or you wake up refreshed.
Huh?
Physically.
Oh. So he starts there. God is the source of all. The whole universe has issued from him. And then he says how. And this is what the Lord is speaking of. As dream objects issue from your consciousness. Do the dream objects separate from you in some way, or do they remain in your consciousness? They remain in your consciousness. So while you're dreaming, are they ever separate from you? But they seem separate from you in the dream, right? But now if you step back and you say, but where were they? Yes? So these objects, where are they?
Within.
Huh?
Oh my gosh.
They don't have an existence without. They're within. They're all within. In the same way. This object, these word objects, all of this. The clouds, the beautiful clouds this morning.
This reminds me, Swamiji, of when you talked about how the ego's a process of drawing lines around what I am.
Yes.
Because I'm thinking about it like that. Like, often you speak of the body, identification with the body being the main problem.
Oh.
And because then it seems like, well, you're out there right now, and there's like a vantage
Seems like
point from my vista point.
Seems like it. But again, we keep coming back to this, and something does break at some point. Something does break, and it's like, oh my God, of course it's so. Of course it's so. So I realize, and it's been here all along, and this is all I've ever been seeing is within consciousness. Even the sight itself is within consciousness. And it's this huge sigh. And then what? And then what? The enlightened ones do not merely repeat these formula. The sadhakas do, but he's talking now. The sadhakas do. We repeat it. Because we have to break this. Sadhaka discovers that the happiness that I've always sought is inside. Is it true? Okay. And where is the way out of this? The sadhaka realizes, I have to wake up. I'm sleeping. I have to wake up. Right? That's why on the hit parade of things to do, the wise will say number one on the list is
Stop dreaming.
Brad, come on. Enlightenment. Always that. Always that. Number one. Why? I have to wake up. That's what the sadhaka says. But when you're awake, what do you say? And by the way, I found it very helpful to say, I have to wake up. I have to wake up. I have to be present. I have to be here now. I have to quit getting distracted and going every which way and this way and that way, because it's not helping anything. It's not helping me. It's not helping anyone. Right? So that's sadhaka. That's when we're saying, okay, come on, let's do this. Then what? The enlightened ones do not merely repeat these formula or think about these truths, but what they say and think is flavored by the nature of their own being. It is not the lips that utter the words or the brain that thinks these thoughts. It is the entire being which expresses the truth. For that being is steeped in the realization of this truth. It's like we cook ourselves in it. Because it's here every moment. It's here in every place. We've never been anywhere but where we are. And so finally, by living it and then observing what happens when we live it, and you got a taste of it, my dear, just 3 days ago, 3 mornings ago, you got a taste of it when you really tried to live it. You see how magical and mysterious it is, right? And so what about when you live it? You get steeped in it. All of the doubts finally integrate.
Yeah.
And so there is not but this Lord. There is nothing else, but there is everything within the Lord. So want of something falls away. The individual desires, the self-centered desires, they just go. There's not something to be done that has to be done in order for me to be free any longer. Because now I know.
That's not like that.
Right? And there's not a doubt any longer, because why? Because the doubt fell away? Because the doubt was satisfied. The doubter was finally satisfied. It's like, and the doubter says, wow, this is cool. I can relax. I did my job.
Was that Pennsylvania song?
Yes.
Hyper relaxation. Must be what he's talking
And it says, I'm satisfied now. Okay, I get it. But in the meantime, it's a lot of work getting it there. So the enlightened ones do not merely repeat. We end up being steeped in it. Like we're stewed in God.
Blown out in it.
Sorry?
Oh, I was going to say maybe like blown out in it.
Yeah, and whatever we do, there's no doubt that it's being done in God, and God is here. There's just no doubt about it. There's no idea to the contrary. So therefore, there doesn't have to always be a conscious idea that there is, but there's still activity And so he's talking about this. And this is just so lovely what he shares. But what they say and think is flavored by the nature of that being. It is the entire being which expresses the truth, for the being is steeped in the realization of this truth. The Lord is Lord of the universe. When you enter into the spirit of this teaching, those words are pregnant.
Yeah.
So entering into the spirit of this teaching means, okay, I get it, I'm going to live it. And then you enter into it. You enter into the spirit of it. Your chitta is the mind stuff, becomes saturated with God. The word saturated is highly inadequate because saturated means that there's a medium in which something else is held, whereas ma-chitta does not mean that. God is not a precept or a concept. When all mental activities cease and the unreality of the ego is realized, God reveals himself, and you realize that everything there is totally pervaded by him. When your whole being cries out that this is the truth, what happens to you is ma-chitta. So, let's see if we can do any justice to this. Our lives before are symbolic lives where we have to have a belief about everything, as if it's a protection mechanism.
Yeah.
We have to know,
Yeah.
and meaning we have to have a belief about it. I have to know if this person is good or bad. I have to know if I can trust them or not. I have to know if I'm safe in this situation or unsafe in this situation. I have to know what this food is because I have to have more of it. I have to know what this is so that I can stay away from it. In Raga Dvesha, it's all like this. And so it's all symbolic thought. In other words, the chitta is involved in thinking about or ruminating about. As sadhakas, really the only experience we have with what's called ma-chitta, which is when it's no longer about, but it just is the thing. The only experience we have that touches it is repetition of mantra. Because the mantra is God. And so repeating the mantra is not a symbolic thought. In other words, the mind stops thinking about things when you repeat the mantra. Do you notice?
Yes.
So that's ma-chitta. When the mind stops thinking about things and just thinks within the thing. So now there's a thought about doing a thing, and along with it is the thought about what will I get from it. And will it be good or bad, etc., etc., etc. So that's all symbolic stuff. That's all, this represents something, and I'll get something from it, or I'll give something, or I'll have to give something. That's what we think of as thought. So when Raja Yoga Sutras says cessation of thought, that's the thought that needs to cease. It's that thought. It's the symbolic thought. It's that whole coexistence of I-ness and my-ness and thought. So is it fair to say that there's no thought with this ma-chitta? No, the thought and God are one. In the same way that you can touch it with mantra. Right? When you're repeating the mantra in the mind, and the mind has become absorbed in the mantra, it's almost as if there's no thought, but there is thought. Thought and God are one in repeating the mantra. Does that make sense? So there's not a thought about something anymore, correct?
Mm-hmm. It's not really my experience with mantra, but I do experience that if I let go of the mantra.
Okay. So you have a taste.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, the mantra is not referring. It doesn't have a referent.
It doesn't have a reference.
No.
You're not thinking about something when you're
No.
repeating the mantra.
Right.
Well, you can repeat the mantra and the mind's still thinking about other things.
If it's not absorbed in it, that's so.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe you don't have any moments where your mind is absorbed in the mantra. Maybe. Hard to imagine, but it's possible, I suppose. But anyone who will sit and repeat mantra over and over again devotionally, the object of devotion collapses. And there's just the mantra. There's just the mantra that remains.
Or sometimes, like a guru, I found, if I'm like my heart opens and tears come, it's like, I don't know, it's almost a weird place because nothing else seems to be in the. I don't even know how to say it.
So it's okay, Gopala. So he finishes here this commentary. He says, so the enlightened person is silent unless it be the divine will that he should teach. Such enlightened ones talk to one another, keeping one another awake and enlightened. To them, there is absolutely no guru-disciple or teacher-taught relationship, but it is merely a case of enlightened persons talking about God. That is the spirit in which the Bhagavatam was narrated, and that is the spirit in which all the great ones assemble, singing the glories of God, without in the least considering themselves to be more enlightened than the others. In their eyes, it is simply two hands scratching two sides of the face. As long as personal desires remain, then the symbolic thought process continues. Because there's the thought about what I need, what I want, what I need. I need to go meditate. I need to do this. I need to do that. So, and we think that that's the way thought is. But no, that's just thought in the company of ego. So if the ego notion has collapsed, then what is the thought? Oh. Okay, let's close. Any other comments, questions, anything?
I was thinking about the first, when you were talking at first, like when we see all the different objects, the mind covers it up. And then what you just said at the end, it seems like a really good link. Because that's, like, if I start to think about it, it's almost like I'm creating the object. It's like separate now from God. Does that make sense what I'm trying to say? Or like I'm creating the separation.
That's all it can be.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about.
But I'm not creating anything. But I'm not actually creating anything. I'm just allowing what is to be covered up. Every symbolic thought is covering up the current moment.
Swamiji,
Oh.
it's what came to me through this talk is the need to know is diminished. And is that the same as giving up the need to know? need to be caught in that duality of good, bad, beneficial, not beneficial, which you just talked of, and to be in presence, because the need is
Sadhana,
relieved.
sadhana is it's on the wall here. I mean, what is sadhana?
Constant practice of
The presence of
yeah,
God every moment,
prayer,
every moment.
everything,
So,
and everybody.
if it's not that, it's an empty sadhana.
Just
In other words, there's one truth here, and you come to recognize that there's one truth here. You have to practice it, the presence of the one truth. Otherwise, it remains as an escape.
yeah,
And I separate myself as an individual from facing what's here.
yeah, this or that, yeah,
Oh.
instead of being in the center. Yeah.
Oh. So it's practicing the presence. It's very much what Swami Shivananda says when he talks about detach, attach. Detach is a step, but we have 2 feet.
Yes. Go back and forth.
So, and you keep stepping with the left foot, you're going to fall down. You just hop so far, and then you hit a slippery rock, and you're on your butt.
Oh.
In other words, you have to have a practice of attaching to the real
Yeah.
at the same time as you're detaching from the unreal. Otherwise, you come into a place where you imagine emptiness means nothing. But emptiness doesn't mean nothing.
It's fullness.
Emptiness means empty of an individual self. Empty of the skandhas are empty. There's no individual self here. Wherever you go, you cannot find an individual self here. So you have to practice the fullness to be free.
But then to this select
So it's this. It's this. I mean, otherwise you end up in a nihilistic place.
Right. Terrible.
So when we say letting go, it's letting go and holding on
Truth.
to the truth.
Yes.
The mind, you see, and we know it in dealing with addictions, because the mind is addictive by its nature, and of course it is,
Yes.
because it's like you took a little baby away from its mother, and you hid the mother, and the little baby won't stop looking for the mother. So, and it will go everywhere that it sees. Are you my mother? Are you my mother? Are you my mother? Are you my mother? You know, the children that are adopted and know that they're adopted, they look around forever and ever for their birth parents.
Right.
Why? Well, it doesn't have anything to do with logic. It's just the way the mind is.
This will bring me peace.
You're always looking for the truth of you. This mind is always looking for it. It's always seeking it. It won't stop seeking it. And so it'll do it in the drugs, in the alcohol, and sex, and this and that, and cars, and oh my God, I have a lot of experience with these. So, you name it, we must have tried it.
Yeah.
I figure we must have. How many births?
It's a big list of things.
It's a big list. But, lots of births.
Chicken boxes.
So the mind is addictive by its nature. It wants its mother.
Mother is the father and the mother.
And the mother is the seedless seed,
Oh.
the Lord of the universe. And so detach, attach. And so we're practicing both. We have to practice both, or we end up in an artificial place. And I get it. This living in this world, it's painful. I get it. But there's only one cure. The mind will continue to seek something to be addicted to. So it has to be addicted to God. You have to pull it away from all the things here and put it on the real.
There's peace.
And practice it.
Yeah. It's true.
And practice it. And practice it. And then when the realization is there, I'm home now. And everywhere is my home. and I don't want for anything, I don't need for anything, then what? And that was being described. Huh? Then what we think of as thought will collapse, but there's still thought.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not the frantic thought, it's not the needful thought, it's not the desirous thought, it's not the separated thought, it's not the seeking thought.
Yeah, it's centered.
And centered.
Yeah.
And so to get there, devotion.
Right.
Practice the presence of God. To get there. Separate from the unreal, separate yourself from the unreal, and at the same time, identify that which is real and attach yourself to that. Detach, attach. 2 steps. And there you can walk. You don't fall down. Oh, okay. Short final prayers in RT. Page 174. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Orvahai Rukameva Bandhanan Mritor Mukshiyamam Mritat Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Orvahai Rukameva Bandhanan Mritor Mukshiyamam Mritat Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Orvai Rukameva Bandhanan Mritor Mukshiyamam Mritat Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. O adorable Lord of mercy and love, let us abide in Thee forever and ever. On below Sakuru Shivananda Maharaj Ki, and for all the saints and sages of all the traditions. Jai. Let's raise for Arti. Jai! Jai, Jai!